Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Insert mom joke here. We have Bloodwave Insanity, Blood Surge farming build, but what about the Bloody Bone Spear? It's quite fun melting bosses and does billions over billions of damage. But how is the actual gameplay? How does it work? Because you always overpower if your enemies are in a bone prison. Is that feasible while going through a seasonal zone in front of hordes? The pit? Let me break it down for you. This build is all about the new pants Indira's Memory. Reading Bone Spear is additionally a blood skill. It drains 10% maximum life each cast after hitting an enemy. This is something you have to account for, but it's quite easy. We're also getting tons of maximum life and Tides of Blood. That's great. The problem here is Bloodwave is additionally a bone skill. It spawns a bone prison at its endpoint, increases your blood skill damage by 77%. Now you would say, fantastic, I'm going to be spamming Bone Spear, and then I get the Blood Wave with a very low cooldown because I'm reducing the Blood Wave cooldown. Surely that's going to be amazing. And that's sadly wrong. Because first and foremost, you want people to be in your bone prison, and you don't want a Blood Wave to put them out of the bone prison. Now, you only have to cast Blood Wave every 8 seconds to get a 77% bonus. And then you get nothing else because Blood Wave just goes out and that's it. But there's something better, and that's straight away our Soul Rift skill, because Soul Rift says every soul absorbed increases your damage up to 75%. With the cooldown reduction we're having, you always have Soul Rift up, and you always soak the souls out of your enemies, and therefore you always have 75% bonus damage while getting barrier, while making your enemies vulnerable. Why again would I cast the Blood Wave? I might have had a plan with this, but that plan was simply not good or feasible in any way. The patterns are obviously still fantastic because now your Bone Spear is a core, bone, and blood skill, which means that anything that boosts core, bone, and blood also boosts the Bone Spear. And since our Bone Spear deals 40% more overpower damage and restores 5% maximum HP after overpowering, plus Bone Spear is guaranteed to overpower enemies within Bone Prison and deals 50% increased damage, you suddenly have that formerly only critical striking Bone Spear shoot up like crazy. Now the problem is that the dual cast Bone Spears from your Bone Spear cast twice things, and that you can easily get to 100%, don't really overpower. That is something that will probably get fixed down the line, yet though, it is quite crazy damage if the enemy is in the bone prison. And in order to get it to 100% double cast chance, you have the Deathless Visage, which you 100% needs because it says Bone Spear deals 60% more critical strike damage. That's amazing. And you form these echoes that also do more damage the more critical strike damage bonus we have. But you get 7 ranks to Bone Spear with a greater affix and 50% chance for Bone Spear projectiles to cast twice. Together with your weapon also having a 30%, and my offense having a 25.6%, suddenly we have a 100% chance for 2 Bone Spears going out. And technically, they should always overpower, and with enough critical strike chance, they should always crit overpower. And that's the most damage you can deal in Diablo 4 right now. Crit overpower hits. Now, before I show you PID gameplay, let's talk about the life being lost and how to make sure that you're actually not draining yourself empty. First and foremost, we got 5% of life restored as we hit our opponent. First and foremost, we get 5% life restored on an overpower. And technically with a double cast, and then your second spear also overpowering, you should always have 10% life back. That doesn't really work. Now, what helps is putting 3 points into Gruesome Mending, because now you suddenly heal more, because the heal from all sources are just healing harder. It means that 5% is not 5%. If you're now adding on top of the Undying aspect, when you cast a skill, any skill, heal for 2.4% life, double this bonus while you're below 50. And the most important part about this is, you need your life to be full, because overpower damage is your life plus your fortify times all the overpower shebang bangs. Therefore, if we not have full life, we lose straight away damage. In order to amplify this, I went for lucky hit chance to restore life. That's only 50 life, and that's only 56 life here. Yet though, it's quite amazing. Now, you could play a Doombringer because that one heals for 700 life straight away. I just don't have a Doombringer. The cool thing though is, because we're a blood skill, we can now play on our weapon. Whenever your blood skills overpower, you gain 50% attack speed. Huh? There's a blood skill that always overpowers. The highest I've done with this so far is a PID 100. My gear is not really excellent, Apart from the pants, I masterworked that really nicely. Should have hit the Tides of Blood. I've seen great equipment blood bone spears go up to 110 and beyond. I'll be showing you a 90 now to present the gameplay loop. Now, your most important skill is Bone Prison and also the Soul Rift to keep up the barrier to not lose more life to actual damage, because we don't want to lose life to damage. Our life is already being lost by casting. Put out your Bone Prison and just start shooting. Then pull everyone together. Have your cooldowns cool down really quick because we're casting our curse over spamming our Bone Prison, as we really don't want to cast our curse manually. And then you're just spamming away. Now you're going to keep in mind that you have to stand away a certain distance from your enemies, because your echoes that are coming from your bone spears are otherwise spawning weird and not doing the maximum damage to your opponents. Keep also in mind that if your enemies are not inside a bone prison, they're not getting critical striked and overpowered at the same time. So you're not dealing any damage. Like, really, you're doing damage inside the bone prison. Just to show you, like, if I just spam away at these guys here right now, they're taking damage, right? But nothing is happening. Look at their life not moving. Now, if I activate my bone prison, suddenly billions of damage. My life is also continuously topped up. I just really gotta look out that my Soul Rift is active, right? So Soul Rift duration tempers on pieces where it's possible helps tons. As well, you might have the Soul Rift cooldown up every single time, but it's only up for 8 seconds. So you might sometimes, when you're not paying attention, hit a moment where you don't have it up, and then you instantly lose life. Now you can restore that life super quick, but you don't want to lose life because lost life is always lost damage. Now let's pull them together and we're going to target the damage reduction mob and just destroy everything. Now let's jump forward to the boss so you can see the boss fight. Now a boss fight does not feel clunky at all because you're just activating, putting him inside the bone prison, and then you just simply absolutely blast away at him. What's he going to do? Like, try to push you? He's in a bone prison anyways, he can't kill you. You're going to make sure that you stand like right in the area of your soul sucking, that you're actually still getting the souls out of him. And yeah, he just dies. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Can't put up a fight. Now, I do believe you might understand more about the clunkiness in the build. You don't have any essence issues. You don't have any shielding issues. You're actually pretty survivally. But unless you have a bone prison up, you're not doing damage. That means in the infernal hordes, in these seasonal zones, you need to put up that bone prison. If there was any way to automatize the cast, like I spam core skills, and at the end of my core skills, there's a bone prison coming. That would be nice. Still though, it can be a little bit finicky. Now let's break down the gear, skill points, Paragon, so you can play this too if you wish to. And again, keep in mind that some of the mechanics are not working as they're supposed to, and the build is operating at 30 to 40% of the actual strength it could have. For skills, we're using the shadow skill tech of pulling them in our skill bar for more damage. That's why we also have the Blight in there. We're not really using the Blight in boss fights. You can actually throw one every 6 seconds to get the bonus 20% damage. I mostly don't even do that. We have 2 points in making corpses because the high lucky chance of the bone spear makes some corpses to get them more bloody bone spears out. That mechanic is also slightly buggerooed, but we can imagine that this will be fixed in patch 2.12. More damage versus elites, together with Fueled by Death and Grim Harvest, as we're actually consuming these corpses to make more bone spears. Then the bone prison into 15% more damage. Whoop whoop, because yes, the bone prison actually increases your damage. With our amplified damage into Decrepify for the cooldown reduction, Decrepify being cast over our runes. Then we get Tides of Blood, and Tides of Blood is working because our skill is overpowering, and it is an actual blood skill now. Colossus Blood boosting our damage, and the Gruesome Mending for the bonus heal. We do not need Blood Orbs or anything, nor do we need Vulnerable. We just have the Corpse Tendrils for pull together, and the Necrotic Carapace for bonus Fortify works really nice. Then the Reaper's Pursuit, I talked about it. Every shadow skill in our bar is 6% more damage. 6, 12, 18% more damage. Simple as cake. Our bone skills do more crit, but that's not so important because we got that crit up nicely. Then Compound Fracture for more bone damage. As we're crit striking, we're always crit striking, together with another 18% damage. We get the Finality with the Sacrifice boosting and even more damage reduction. 5 ranks into that Soul Rift for the 75% bonus damage. And only 1 single point in Inspiring Leader because I didn't have more points left. Technically, that point could also land into Precision Decay or Movement Speed, but hell, another 4% critical strike chance to reach that 100% seems fine. The key passive is Rathmas Vigor, and not the Bone key passive, because the Bone key passive would be right now 40% more damage, while Rathmas Vigor is 120% increased overpowered damage. And we always overpower. Hell yeah. Now the Paragon boards will be somewhat tricky because we had to take a blood board over a bone board. But we'll get to that in a second. First, the gear. The most important piece is Indira's memory. You want the greater affix on Tides of Blood and maximum life. The actual 77% doesn't matter at all, because that's only if you would be using Blood Wave, and we don't use Blood Wave. So kick that out of the window. You have a 40% Indira's memory with 2 greater affixes. Fantastic, that's great. This one will be dropping from the Beast of Ice. The Beast of Ice also drops the Path of Trag'Oul, and this one you want 2. Simply for the bigger bone prison, that you always have enough enemies in the bone prison, then cooldown reduction, movement speed, armor, all nice, but ranks to bone skills. Ranks to bone skills is also more bone spear ranks, more damage straight away. Do not look at the amount of splinters. That one doesn't matter for this build. You don't need the more essence. You just want the greater affix bone skills for more damage. Then from our good friend Varsh, we're getting the Desolate Visage. You want the greater affix on Bone Spear and the 60% damage. Everything else doesn't matter. If you have a greater affix for bone projectiles to cast twice, it's easier to masterwork. Simple as cake. This is also where our first rune combo on is, the Tam Watt combo. Cast a non-channel core skill, we always do that, and then we get Decrepify. This means wherever you're hovering your Bone Spear over as you're casting, Decrepify will be casted, instant cooldown reduction, and execute if they drop at 10% HP. Your chest piece absolutely needs to play on dying. I also got 5 ranks to Bone Prison. That one is technically unnecessary, but practically it hires the life of your Bone Prison pieces and makes them somewhat more tanky. Now I do have Bone Prison duration tempered on this. That one should go off and Soul Rift duration on. That would give you another 2 to 3 seconds Soul Rift duration, and it's so much worth it. Otherwise, after 8 seconds already cut short, and casting your ulti every 8 seconds can be annoying. Every 10 or 11 seconds is way more desirable. On top, you want the Undying aspect. Without the Undying aspect, you're dying. Ta-da. Joke's on me. Your gloves, attack speed. You want to attack as fast as possible with a crit chance and the critical strike damage. That critical strike damage could technically be maximum life, but kind of works out nicely. Corpse tendril size to pull more people into your bone prison, and then critical strike damage as well. We're playing the corpse tendril aspect for more damage as we're pulling things together. You could technically replace it through the cadavers aspect that gives you more damage as you consume corpses. That is an always up bonus versus the only corpse tendril up bonus. On the weapon, we want max life, crit damage, and the heal. You could play Doombringer, then projectiles to cast twice with a crit damage, and blood skill overpower 50% more attack speed. Come closer, interesting part here. That 50% attack speed is attack speed cap number 2. Right now I'm sitting at 65.5% attack speed bonus. And you would say plus 50%? Huh, that's 111, that's impossible. 100% is max. Wrong. 100% is max in attack speed cap 1. Attack speed cap 1 are your persistent bonuses. So that would be the attack speed here and the attack speed on my Ring of Starless Skies. But the 50% bonus attack speed on this item is going into attack speed cap 2. Yes, there are 2 attack speed caps, the temporary attack speed. Now that is then 65.5 plus 50%, bringing me up over 100% to attack even faster. And attack speed in this build is everything. On your off end, you want critical strike chance, because crit chance needs to be 100%. With a Bone Spear Twi, more critical strike damage, maximum life and intelligence, and then we get Barrier gives us bonus damage as, well, we're always Barriered. Ring more of the same. Attack speed, the heal, the maximum life. Crit chance would probably be good, but we have the Ring of Starless Skies. Then lucky hit chance to restore resource. That lucky hit chance to restore resource is enough to always have us fully restored resource up. We don't have to care about anything. The Soul Rift might actually already be enough, but the more attack speed you have, the less enough the Soul Rift is. Therefore, I went for the lucky hit for restores, and it works wonders. Bone Spear guarantees overpower is 100% needed. Don't even start playing without. Then we get the Ring of Starless Skies, which just fits perfect. It reduces our resource costs that, well, no matter how many we cast, the Soul Rift can keep up with it. That being said, due to the lucky hit chance restoration, we usually have enough to not need the Starless Skies. Could play the Cadavers aspect here instead of this. And then lastly, our amulet has Coalesced Blood. That works to multiply our damage up. Evulsion would be better. Maximum life intelligence, total armor, and ultimate cooldown reduction. With the sacrifice bonuses going up 75%. That sacrifice bonus going up is incredible. Skeletal Warriors can be going for critical strike damage, and that's 18%. And our Skeletal Mages go all the way up to 53% more overpower damage, and our Golem for 61% more critical strike damage. This is leading to truly ludicrous numbers at times with 15,000 overpower and almost 3,000 critical strike damage. And that's considering me not even having the perfect tempers or high rolls on my gear. There's so much more I could weasel out. 3,500, maybe up to 4,000 in the long run. As the Merc, we get Subo for that 25% critical strike damage bonus. And right now we have Alkin with a Flame Surge, but that Alkin could easily be Rahir with a Bastion just to give me that 90-second of no damage taken to avoid any situation where it could potentially die. Now, worth a mention, we're never using Reeve. That's not happening. It's just in there for 6% more bonus damage. And the Blight is very rarely being used. Again, 12% more bonus damage in total, and 20% if you then throw it versus bosses every 6 seconds. Easy to weave into, not mandatory to use as you're speed farming through content. Which powers are iterating on what we do harder? The Paragon can be annoying as it pulls things together out of your bone prison sometimes, but then you just make a new bone prison and straight away have everyone in one spot. With the aura specialization, we get more critical strike damage, and the aura of siphoning, we get that bonus heal and bonus damage. Very nice. We're playing the Hex of Flames to actually get the Hex on for the Paragon, and since we're always critical striking enemies, we have that bonus fire damage blips. With the Soul Harvest increasing our stats massively. And then if we get the Hex specialization up, we will get another 20% critical strike chance. And right now we're sitting somewhat at 90.7%. Okay, let's ignore that. Hex specialization is not needed because we have 90.7%, which allows me to consider Breath of the Coven for another 12% bonus attack speed, as we have an Hex Eldritch Gross Decay power, everything happening pretty much. With more levels, we boost that even further to go up to that 200% attack speed. To the Paragon board, and that is a bit tricky. We start with the Eliminator glyph just to boost our intelligence further. Take the maximum lives as we're an overpower build. Now, you could technically go for the Bone Graft board. The problem with the Bone Graft board is that the power does only 8% more damage. Now, our Blood Baguettes doesn't really do much too, because it says Blood Orbs grant 10% increased damage up to 50%. And we're not currently making any Blood Orbs. That being said, we could probably kick out the Inspiring Leader as our crit chance is high enough, and then just weasel out another point from the damage reduction from standalone to make Blood Orbs with our Corpse Tendrils. That would now give us the Blood Baguettes bonus, but the main reason we're in this board is because we get more maximum life here, then more maximum life over here, with another maximum life over there. This is the most maximum life board in existence, together with the Sacrificial Glyph. Next board is going to be the Bloodbath board, as we overpower, and our blood skills deal more damage, and the Bone Spear is a blood skill. This will grant us damage reduction, amazing, more overpower damage like crazy. With the Essence Glyph, 74 points, that is currently another 322 critical strike damage. Amazing. Then lower into the Flash Speeder board first, because we need enough willpower to activate this 8% more max life together with a 4% more max life. Yes, I'm missing like a somewhat willpower, but I could probably put this in here with the Eliminator glyph, because every point of willpower is 8 willpower, and that will then lead to me having enough. In this board, we're going to be putting the Amplify glyph for more damage against enemies affected by our curse skills. And then lastly, we're going over into the Frailty, as that has even more max life, the 40% bonus damage versus enemies affected by our curse for a longer duration, and the Dominate glyph fits in very well here. Now, I would turn this board over that I'm entering not from this side, I'm entering from this side here, because there's another 5 willpower that you can take for the Dominate glyph. The planner in the description below will have the updated version of this. Ladies and gentlemen, Bloody Bone Spear is something for you, something you'd be interested in. Keep in mind, it's not working at maximum power level right now due to bugs. It is weaker than the Bloodwave, but it's at least something fun to do if you're absolutely bored by the Bloodwave gameplay. If you're looking for another amazing build, Blood Surge is back on the menu with teleports now, or rather 7 things you most certainly did not know about Diablo 4. Enjoy and have a fantastic good day.